When I arrived this evening, Brother David asked me what I was planning on doing. I said, well, it's between two things I haven't decided yet. I'm one of these last minute people. Sometimes I don't know what I'm going to do till I'm just about ready to do it. But Miss Sandy had expressed thought that a particular song that she was hoping somebody's going to do sometime within this season. And it was actually one of the two songs I was considering. And so maybe that was the Lord wanting me to do it. I don't know. Maybe that's His way of telling me. It seems like every year it's one of my absolute favorite songs. And it's sort of rangy, and so I don't do it a lot. But every year I threaten to do a Christmas album. I'm thinking about doing one for next year, possibly. So this would have to be on it, I think, if I did it. So y'all pray for me as I sing. Mary, did you know that your baby boy one day walked on waters? Mary, did you know that your baby boy would save our sons and daughters? Did you know that your baby boy has come to make you new? Child that you delivered, a soon deliver you. Mary, did you know that your baby boy brings sight to the blind man? Mary, did you know that your baby boy in the world with his hands? You know that your baby boy has walked where angels trod. And when you kissed your little baby, you kissed the face of God. Mary, did you know that your baby boy will one day rule the nation? You know that your baby boy is heaven's perfect lamb, and the sleeping child you're holding is great. Mary, did you know
security detail. And part of that was the reason was because of Miss Terry. We had to, Alan was almost overwhelmed at the back door back there by the paparazzi trying to slip in here, take pictures and these pirate videos and all that other kind of stuff. You know, we try to prevent that if we can here in Bethesda. But Miss Terry, it's always good to hear you sing, darling. Didn't Miss Pat do such a good job on this? And I don't know why. I never figured that out. She always does a super duper job. And how about that choir? Well, they keep it in. So, boy, if you haven't invited somebody for church next Sunday morning, you need to invite them and just encourage them to come.
One thing before you start preaching, okay? You know how you tell the church that you're their favorite preacher and you're the best preacher on Long Island? Well, this is what we think.
What can I tell you? We were having lunch today, and some folks from Old Union came in and sat down beside us, and we were talking. And we got through the conversation, just about getting ready to get up, and she said, "How about them dogs?" And I said, "I'm not a Georgia fan." She said, "Well," she said, "if we'd have known that, we probably wouldn't have sat here." And I said, "If I'd have known you was a Georgia fan and wasn't an Alabama fan, I probably would have invited you over here to sit down." That goes both ways. But anyway, it is good to see everybody here tonight. Please, let's not forget, and I meant to mention this morning, let's not forget Miss Nancy. Her and Robin are traveling to Michigan, and I don't know what the weather's like up there. Usually every time I ever hear it's bad. So, you know, just pray for her and the loss of her sister-in-law, that she'll get back here safely and home and everything else. I know she was pretty concerned and upset about that. So lift her up, all right, if you don't mind. And then, yes, Miss Karen, you have your hand up.
I was just going to say, it looks like you would be so happy if somebody's beat Auburn.
Well, on the norm, yes. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, we won't get into that because I have very strong feelings, and this next verse we're going into says I'm not supposed to be dealing with that. Anyway, also I'd like for y'all to remember my Uncle Clayton. He is my namesake, and he is the oldest boy, male, in my dad's family. He's 86, I think, I want to say. But they have called hospice in, and they've kind of just got him in the front room. And my aunt called and said that he's not eating, and he just kind of lays there and stares off into space. So Mary and I may be going sometime, maybe toward the end of the week. I'm very concerned that if I don't go down and see him, I'm not going to get to. You know what I'm saying? So just be much in prayer for him, and just pray for Aunt Mary Ellen. She's just really going through it. And, you know, one spouse never thinks that they will come to a point, especially, you know, when your husband's always been the head of the household, he's always been what God said he should be, and then he's not able. It's an emotional and a spiritual, it just devastates you, you know what I'm saying? And that's where she's at right now. So I know when we were down at the reunion back in June, she said she really just didn't know what to do. You know, he was getting to the point where the dementia or Alzheimer's or whatever you want to call it was that he was just at the point that he didn't even remember where he went to church, and he was he's been a deacon in the church for years, ever since I can remember. So, you know what I'm saying? It really wasn't him. So just lift him up. I'm going to try and talk Dad into going with me. That'll be World War III. So I'm going to try and talk him into going with me if he will, even if it's just overnight, so that I can, he needs to see. It's probably going to be the last time this side of glory, you know what I'm saying, before he gets an opportunity. So be much in prayer for them. We have so many that we need to be lifting up. Miss Linda back there, she said she don't feel a bit better than she did this morning. If it wasn't for the fact that she just had the prettiest preacher in all of Augusta Highway, she wouldn't even come tonight. You know what I'm saying? Hey, leave the big one. And Brother Gale's not, I guess, is not feeling any better either, is he? Is he going to go to Atlanta with you tomorrow? Have you got somebody to go with you tomorrow? You sure? Do you need somebody to go with you? Mary can go with you, can't you? Mary can go if you want her to go. Would you like Mary to go with you? All right. You got a phone number? Have your people call my business. Hey, you know what? I was asking Gail when you were up there. He said, I'm going early in the morning. And I said, how early is early in the morning? You know what Sam said? Earlier than you get up. And Brother Sam was only speaking from experience. Saturday, I was coming down here Thursday to help him out. First time I've been down here in almost 3 months. Was going to come down, going to help these guys out, right? I got down here at 9:30. They'd already done whatever they was going to do and left. You know what I'm saying? So I called Brother Sam. I said, Sam, I mean, you know, I'm sorry I missed y'all. He said, man, if you're waiting on us, you're backing up. He said, we got things to do. So anyway, if you have your Bibles, open them with me, please, to 1 Timothy chapter 3. And the knuckle-headed preacher was told on the way home last Sunday night that guess what? I skipped an entire verse. Did anybody else catch that? Don't raise your hand now because you know you're just showing off. All right? Did anybody really catch that? Did I miss verse 3? They did. Miss Rita did out there. Several of y'all did. Thank y'all for being honest anyway. You know what I'm saying? Of course, I found out in the deacons meeting tonight that Brother Ron, who's now 76 years old, has quit doing one-handed push-ups. He now uses 2 hands. And I thought that was still pretty impressive, but he said it wasn't that he couldn't do them one-handed anymore, he just didn't want to show off. So I said, well, that'll work too. So anyway, I missed verse number 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to back up and I'm going to go through verse number 3. And then when we get to verses 4, 5, and 6, which we already covered, I'll just kind of jump over them, you know what I'm saying? And we'll stay in the progression, okay? So now we're talking about the pastors, and we're talking about leadership in general, and of course the title of this whole section is The Measurement of a Leader. And we found out that, guess what? Not everybody can be in leadership. It's not that there's that you know what I'm saying, that there's any disqualification in the sense that one leader is better than another, but it is that the standard is way up here. Is that not right? Amen. And not everybody can meet that standard. And I'm talking about not everybody. If you flip on your idiot box, there's some people there that can't meet that standard. Okay? So don't get all excited about it. But these are the standards that you should look for in a pastor. Okay? In a pastor, talking about bishop, that's an archaic word. We don't use that anymore. But in the pastor of the church. Okay? So we've gotten down to verse 3, and that's where I want to pick up on a pretty unique subject. Okay? Look at verse 3 of chapter 3 of 1 Timothy. He says this, not given to wine, no striker, not greedy of filthy lucre, but patient, not a brawler, not covetousness, or not covetous. Now, if you think about this for just a minute, these are some pretty high standards in the world in which we live in. Because if you don't believe that very first thing about not giving to wine, that right there, people will argue that with you all day long. And I'm talking about Baptist folks. will argue that with you all day long. Now, is he saying here now, is this a license to partake of wine in moderation? Now, every time you look at one of these commercials, now, isn't it wonderful that you know you can drink swill beer down and guzzle it all up, and you know what, even when you're 65 years old, you can be out on the beach with a flat stomach, jumping around with the girls who ain't got no clothes on, and you can do all that, ain't that right? More of them look like me, look like that pig, than they do. But I love the way the commercial ends, because it always says, please enjoy responsibly. Do you know what that means? That means if you were in a diving bell at the bottom of the ocean, you could have one sip and that's it. And even then, you'd wind up doing something stupid and blowing up the diving bell and drowning. Because the idea is that guess what? Anything that you put in your body that alters this, right? God says, be careful, because you're setting yourself up for failure. Now, I want you to think about two things. In the ancient times, what do we know about the water supply? What there was wasn't very clean, okay? And what they had, if it didn't make you sick or kill you or give you dysentery or something, it may not even be able to be gotten to, okay? Because there wasn't a lot of well technology going on at that time. But I want to read you something here. This next statement, I'm sorry I didn't have room enough to put, it's by a commentator called William Barclay, okay? And his commentary on 1 Timothy. Now listen to this. He says, although the ancient world used wine as the commonest of all drinks, it used it most ostentatiously. When wine was drunk, it was drunk in the proportion of 2 parts of wine to 3 parts of water. And no man who was drunken a man who was drunken would be disgraced in ordinary heathen society, let alone in the church. Now let me ask you a question. I'm not a beer drinker, so I can't really tell you. What is that percentage of alcohol on a beer? You may know. It's 80%. 8%. Y'all answer too quick. Yeah. What if you was to take that beer and pour 3 cups of water in it? See, because that's what he's saying. Because what happened was, because they had no way to preserve wine, they dried it into a paste. And that paste prevented it from fermenting. And so, as what they would do is, they would take that paste out, and when they got ready to mix up some, they would take and add 3 parts water to 2 parts of that paste. And what they wound up with, in essence, was grape juice. Now, how do I know that? Preacher, you just, all that stuff, you went in with no time machine and went back there. Well, listen to what the Bible has to say, or the scriptural view on wine, okay? Ash, you got to click over on that thing, baby. You asleep? You on your cell phone? What's going on? Ludell?
It's moving it back here.
There we go. All right. Listen to this. This is in Luke chapter 1 and verse 15. It says, for he shall be great in the sight of the Lord, and shall drink neither wine nor strong drink, and he shall be filled with the Holy Ghost, even from his mother's womb. Anybody know who he's talking about? John the Baptist. John the Baptist, okay? Romans 14 and 21, it is good neither to eat flesh, nor to drink wine, nor anything whereby thy brother stumbleth, or is offended, or is made weak. Now, let me ask you a question. Have you ever seen somebody that come to church, right? And they're one of them closet drinker Baptists, you know what I'm saying? And somebody walk up on them that doesn't know they drink, and what is their expression? Miss Debbie knows all about that. Miss Debbie, do they sell that, they sell alcohol down at Sam's? She says she's seen them come out and with carts. So if you're going to go down there and buy up about 56 packs, don't go down there because Miss Debbie's going to spot you. But the idea is that people they're kind of like, I can't believe that, right? I can't believe that so-and-so, actually, I didn't know that they drank. So what happens is people become offended, especially younger people who look at that and say, wow, man, I didn't know that you did that. They're not condemning you. They're just saying that in their faith, guess what they found? They found out that they thought they could trust you, and now what's happened? Their opinion of you has done what? I can assure you it's nosedived. Okay? But now listen to this. This is in Leviticus chapter 10 and verse 9. He says this, do not drink wine nor strong drink, thou nor thy sons with thee, when you go into the tabernacle of the congregation. Now listen to it. You want to talk about something that's interesting? Lest you die. Kind of stiff penalty, don't you think? He says, it shall be a statute forever throughout your generations. Now, yeah, it fell on there. Good, it didn't fit on mine. All right, throughout your generations. Let me ask you a question. Does that sound like they tolerate social drinking? Does that sound like they tolerated just a swig here and there behind the church when nobody was looking? You know what? What about that eggnog that will stand up and walk away on its own? Because here's the deal. Your pastor, the person who's in leadership, should do what? No wine. Nothing. Just stay away from it. Why? I can take you to Proverbs 31 where it says strong drink. Just turn away from the cup when the wine is red. Stay away from it because it mocks you. Matter of fact, Lamel said that guess what? Wine is not for kings. Kings shouldn't drink wine. Now, I don't know whether you know this or not, but our current president doesn't partake of adult beverages because he had a brother who literally drank himself to death. And because of that, he says, you know, the easiest way to prevent that, don't ever start. Amen? You don't want to get hooked up with something that's going to be a nightmare for you, don't ever start it. That's the easiest way to go about it. So, he says, the pastor, what? No wine. Is that not right? Is that what he said? I get that right, okay. All right. Then he says, go back to verse 3, not given to wine, no what? Actually, what have you done to me like that? All right. So what is a striker? Anybody know? Okay. It's not a person that belongs to the union and won't work. Okay. That's not it. He's talking about a striker in a different way. And it literally carries the connotation of literally striking with violence. And he says, this person can't be quarrelsome. He can't be somebody who's contentious. He can't be easily upset or irritated or aggravated with others. Now, when I read this part, guess what I thought?
You're out.
I ain't qualified to be the preacher. Because I don't know about y'all, but that last part, that easily irritated or aggravated by others, when you get in leadership, let me tell you something. That's easy to do, ain't it? Because some people are just aggravating to be around, ain't they? Say amen. You know what? Some folks are just not. Now, none of them go to this church. Okay? But some folks are pretty aggravating to be around sometimes. You know what I'm saying? And he says, you can't be a part of that. He said, you can't stoop down there, and why? Anybody know? Why? If the pastor is contentious, what is the church going to be? It's going to be contentious. It's exactly right. And guess what destroys churches quicker than anything? Some kind of strife, some kind of schism, some kind of something that's got. And most of the time when you look at it, it's never doctrinal. It's absolutely something foolish. Well, I didn't like the color of the curtains they picked. Why, I can't believe, I had a guy tell me one time, I can't believe they had a Christmas tree in the sanctuary. Now, it'd be different if we had a guy in a red suit. I don't have a red suit. A guy in a red suit, a fat guy walking down there with a beard. Had to make sure that I wouldn't do that by accident. That would be different. But what does this Christmas tree celebrate? The birth of our Christ is exactly what it celebrates, our Savior. And brother, let me tell you something. I'll string lights all out up there. If I have to, we'll send Brother Sonny up on top of the steeple. He could probably climb up here as long as he can hang on one hand. Can't Brother Sonny? So the idea is, he says, you can't be a person that's given to this contention. Now listen to this. This is in Proverbs 3 and verse 30. It says, strive not with a man without cause, if he have done thee no harm. Now, the book of Proverbs is wisdom, okay? And he says this. He says, don't get in an argument with somebody who's not hurt you. Now, let me ask you a question. We were doing a study, Mary and I were, on marriage. And we were doing some devotions on marriage. And I asked Mary, I said, you know, the book says, what is it worth to be right? You ever thought about that for a minute? What is it worth to be right? Now, you know, we used to have some pretty knockdown drag-outs. Sometimes we still do. Unfortunately, she usually loses, but still, we have some knockdown drag-outs. Yeah, like Georgia beat, Auburn beating Georgia, right? Anyway, the idea is that guess what? At the end of the day, it amounted to nothing. What I just tell you about the squabbles that go on in churches. At the end of the day, what did it amount to? So you got the color carpet you wanted. So the curtain was the color that you wanted. The lights were the color you wanted. At the end of the day, you ran 3 families off. What did it really matter? It meant nothing. Matter of fact, actually, you did more harm than you did good. Just simply say, put in there whatever color you want to. Because at the end of the day, if you stay in the church long enough, you will get so old you can't see the color anyway. Say amen. All right. He says, Proverbs 20 and verse 3 says, it is an honor for a man to cease from strife, but every fool will be what? Now, don't you know that there's some people in the church that have an opinion on everything? Say amen. All right? And if you've got 50 people in church, and tonight we got 64 plus whatever, okay? How many different opinions do you think you're going to get? Probably 68, because some of y'all are going to change your opinion 2 or 3 times after you ask you. But the idea is that guess what we find out? We find out that, you know what? At the end of the day, the fool is always doing what? Stirring. Is that not right? They're always stirring the fire. Whenever the coals get up a little bit, they're the first one that rush in there. And let me tell you, man, conversations that start out with, let me tell you what I think. Whoo, those could be some scary times. Say amen. So he says this. He says, you know what? A wise man will do what with strife? He'll abstain from it. Matter of fact, actually, listen to this. This is in Matthew chapter 5 and verse 9. This is in the Beatitudes. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. There are times, folks, when we have to be peacemakers. Say amen. I've been in some situations, especially, nothing tears at my heart worse than family. And I have been in some situations where one family member won't talk to the other. One of them will get sick and get in the hospital, and their kinfolk won't come and visit them because of something that happened 25, 30 years ago. Do you know how sad that is? Because here's the deal. Guess what? When mama or daddy or brother or sister go home to glory, guess what? If you're not real careful, eventually where you're going to find yourself? All by yourself. Amen. All right? And let me tell you something. The world don't love you as much as you think the world loves you. Family will do for you when nobody else will do for you. And if that's not the case in your family, then guess what you need to be seeking? You need to be seeking unity and reconciliation some way, some shape, some form. You need to be seeking peace within your family. And it just breaks my heart. At funerals, it is unbelievable the extents people will go to some little, it was $1,200. I mean, the whole family broke up over $1,200. I'm almost tempted to say, let me give you the $1,200. If that will keep the family together, you know what I'm saying? And it's never, the people that I know at funerals, it ain't never like Brother Ernie Wren back there got $1 million in the bank. It's always like, we're arguing over $7. Mama went home and she left the porcelain doll to Aunt Susie and not me, and I had my lips all poked out. Really, at the end of the day, what does it matter? Amen? What does it matter to not be able to sit down with your family and hug one another and tell them how much you love them? Does that mean we always agree with family? I got brothers that, you know what I'm saying? I just don't agree with the way they do things. But you know what? They're still my brothers. And I still love them, you know what I'm saying? And my hope is that one day God will get a hold of them. Amen? So the idea is that each and every one of us, not just the pastor, need to be that peacemaker, not a striker. But then he goes on to say this. He says, in verse 3, he says, not greedy of filthy what? What does that mean? Money means money. All right, but it can also mean what else? Possessions. Why do you think that's in there?
Well, I think especially for a preacher, because you never know where God is sending a preacher to, and finances might not be there, that it used to maybe previously lived.
Because here's the deal. If you flip on the idiot box, what is the idiot box telling us? You got to have something else. Is that not right? There's a deception in riches and in wealth that we need to be aware of. Now, they're telling us now the stock market's, reaching an all-time high, and that's something like that. Okay. All right. Then they turn around and tell us, so far, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, I don't know, Give It Back Tuesday, or whatever that. The stores have done made 60 quadrillion to billion dollars. Best Christmas they've ever had, right? And I'm telling you, and I'm not a prophet, and I'm not trying to make a prediction, but when the holiday season, when Christmas is over with, guess what the report will be? We're broke. Worst Christmas we ever had to lay off 50,000 people. You know what I'm saying? We didn't make, well, wait a minute, didn't you just make 60 quadrillion to billion dollars? Yeah, but that was $1 less than we made last year. Think about it. Is that not the truth? I go you one step further. How about the peaches? The peach farmers, they can get below what? 50 degrees, lost half the peach crop. There's a reason why. You ever been over to South Carolina? They lose half the peach crop, and guess what? You can't drive 20 feet for the peach stands. But they lost half the crop. You know what I'm saying? What I'm trying to tell you is this. The world tells us we don't never have enough. We always need something else. If I could just get that position, if I could just get that raise, somehow or another I would be happy. And what you have to find in a pastor is this. Guess what? Just like Brother Ray said, there may come a time when, guess what? You can't drive the newest car around. You may not live in the nicest house, which I ain't figured out yet why in the world somebody would want to have 25,000 square feet they got to clean for one person. But there are people out there that are not satisfied unless they got this giant house. And I mean, I don't know about y'all, my wife can't get me to pick up stuff off my office floor. And that's usually socks and shoes. Okay? Jack, easy now. Somebody turn that pig on. Right? But the idea is that guess what? The world tells us if we had just a little more, we would be happy. Listen to this. Paul puts it this way. He says, for the love of money is the root of all evil, which while some coveted after, they have erred from the faith and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. Now today, I know people love to play the lottery. Matter of fact, some of y'all probably got some scratch-offs in your pocket right now. Okay? People love to play the lottery, and they say, man, if I could just win the lottery, I would be happy. What you need to start reading is some books on people that have won the lottery. Because guess what you find out? They have relatives that they ain't never on other continents. You know what I'm saying? They start showing up wanting their money. And they wind up moving out in the middle of nowhere in a double wide trailer saying, just leave me alone. And see, what I'm trying to tell you is, all those things that the world says you got to have, once you get them, what do you find out? This thing is a headache. Now, you don't believe that. Let me tell you something. Brother Dwayne said, now you back me up. All these cars with all this neat stuff on them. Man, it flashes the lights when I drive by. Oh, my sunroof is automatic. I just set the temperature of the sunroof. I'm going to tell you, there's a lie from the pit on them cars there, Brother Hank. That idea of dual climate control, that's a lie. Okay? Because Mary can set her side of the car for 150, and I can't turn my side down low enough to get cool. All those bells and whistles that we just got to have, because you know you deserve them. Y'all ever seen people come up to the drive-thru window and open the door? Know why that is? Because that power window that's all spiffy that you just talked to, guess what? It don't work no more. And you know what you find out? You can buy a car cheaper than you can have the window motor put in that motor. And then we say, but you know, this is the latest and the greatest. And somehow or another now, when my window don't work, what happens? Now I ain't so happy, am I? Now when I'm making that $500 a month car payment, what do we find out? That ain't so good, because my window don't work. Or the ashtray lighter don't open up and flick itself on, or whatever. And the idea is, the deceitfulness of riches says that somehow or another, if I just have the right thing, I'll be happy. And that's a lie right from the pit. Listen to this. It's James chapter 5 and verse 3. Your gold and silver is cankered, and the rust of them shall be a witness against you. You shall eat your flesh as it were fire. You have heaped treasure together for the last days. You know what he said? There's going to come a time, I remember my mother and talking to us when we were little about life in post-World War II Germany. Now, you have to understand something there, because what happened was Adolf Hitler began during the war to print his own money. He had to. That's the only way he could fund his war machine. Well, they had a thing before he came into power called a Deutsche Mark. It was a gold mark. In other words, it was based on, like the America used to be, on the gold standard. When you had one of those pieces of paper, it meant that there was gold backing it up. Well, Hitler took them off of that gold standard. Well, she could tell me that, you know what, you could have a wheelbarrow full of those in order to buy a loaf of bread. When the money ain't worth nothing, guess what? It ain't worth nothing. Now think about that for just a minute. And people say, that can't happen here. Really? Now let me take you back to about 2009, when gas was $5 a gallon. You say, well, we had that time where it was tough. Isn't it interesting that, you know what, at the end of the last administration and beginning into this one, that it's lower than I can remember it in a long, long time? How is that? Are they making more of it? Are they making less of it? No, it's driven by what? Greed is exactly what it's driven by. The desire to make a profit. What it boils down. And what he's trying to say is, guess what's going to happen to all those things that we got stocked up that we think we're safe on? Y'all ever hear the thing on TV about they get some gold? You need some gold in your 401k, and silver's going to top $20 million an ounce before the week's over. Although it's fallen down to almost nothing, it's going to top because these analysts say they are. Y'all ever heard that? What good does a closet full of gold do you when somebody's standing at your front door willing to kill you over a loaf of bread? Have you thought about that for a minute? Most of us haven't. Most of us think, if I got a closet full of gold, I'll be doing good. Well, you know what? If the money ain't worth nothing, the money ain't worth nothing. Say amen. That's the deceitfulness of riches. And what he said was, pastors need to be careful that they're not settled on gaining things. You know what I'm saying? That enough is enough. that you know what? God should make you content with what he has blessed you with. Now, listen to this. We're about out of time. Unless the pig goes off. The pig is supposed to go off at 8 o'clock, all right? All right, look at verse 3 again. He says this, not greedy for filthy lucre, but what? Here's another one of those things I thought was just going to qualify me to be the pastor. He said patience, okay? And that word is also translated gentleness. Gentleness, soft, there you go. Soft and tender, kind, gracious, forbearing, okay? He says those are the things that we should be. Now think about this for a minute. How many folks treat you kindly? When we go into a place and somebody talks ugly to us, cashier or clerk or whatever, most of the time we just do what? We just brush it off. We expect it. This time of year, go to Walmart trying to get a parking space up close somewhere. Man, somebody will kill you over a parking place. We've seen people actually, they couldn't get in. They dropped one of the people in the car out. They went around again, and when that car backed out, that other person came and stood in the parking space. So you couldn't get in. Wonder what would happen if you accelerate. Now, anyway, it's supposed to be gentle, okay? It's supposed to be gentle and kind and gracious toward those things. See what I'm telling you? Boy, these things are hard. Listen to this. This is in 1 Thessalonians 2 and 7. It says, but we were gentle among you, even as a nurse cherisheth, there you go, her child. James 3 and 7. But the wisdom that is from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, easy to be entreated, full of mercy and good fruits, without partiality and without hypocrisy. So that's what we should be looking for in our pastor. That's what we should be looking for in our leadership. But I'll go you one step further. If we have the fruits of the Spirit in our lives, guess what we find out? We should all be that way. Say amen. Every one of us should have these standards in our lives, okay? But especially those that are in leadership. And I'm going to stop right here because it is 8 o'clock. And I just want you to know that we need to be praying for our folks who are in leadership. Our deacons, our pastor, you need to be praying for them. Now you say, now preacher, I don't like the pastor. I don't like the deacons. I don't like this. I don't like that. Well, here's the deal. It doesn't matter whether you like them or not. What should you be doing? You should be praying for them. That's exactly right. And if it comes to a point that these men they're meeting the biblical standard for leadership, and you still can't get along for whatever reason, my encouragement to you is to find another church. Amen. Don't mess up what we already have. You know what I'm saying? God's blessing here in a mighty way. He's raised up men here that are willing to serve Him, that are willing to not be deacons in name only. And folks, let me tell you something. We ought to cherish them. Amen. You ought to be lifting them up. So tonight, I don't know what your need might be. I just know this, that the Master's here. He's willing to meet your need, whatever it is. Maybe you've seen something in this list tonight, and you say, preacher, I really struggle with this. Well, won't you come and ask Him? He says, you know what? James said that He'll give liberally to anybody that asks Him wisdom. Won't you come tonight and ask Him for that wisdom to deal with these areas in your life? Whatever they might be, I encourage you that He can encourage you tonight, whatever your need might be. Brother Dave, what number are we going to sing tonight?
Number 320.
Page 320 as you take your hymnal and stand with me and turn to page 320 and join me as we pray. Our Father and our God, as we now in your presence, Lord, we thank you, first of all, for Jesus. Lord, we thank you for this time that we're able to assemble together. And Lord, we thank you, Father, for your word. Lord, because you just didn't save us and leave us here to grope around in the dark. But Father, you gave us your word. Lord, that we might know how to live our lives. Lord, that we might even know how to do church. Lord, that we might know how to support those that are in leadership. And Father, I pray that these lessons in Timothy will show us all the high standard that you have. And that, Father, we would lead our lives accordingly, being very, very careful, Lord, to make sure that we listen, Lord, to you and follow your leadership. Father, tonight, if there's one under the sound of my voice that's never received you as Lord and Savior, I pray today would be the day of salvation for them. Father, if there's one of your children tonight that are struggling in one of these areas, Encourage them tonight. Lord, give them the strength they need to find their way to this old-fashioned altar and cry out to you. And Father, we'll praise you, we'll worship and honor you, because we've asked all these things in Jesus' name for his sake. And my family said with me, amen. Won't you come right now?